Greetings, Jersey Hoopheads! Can you hear the sneakers squeaking? It's almost time for the 2025-26 college basketball season, and that means the Jersey Jump Shot podcast is back for season 7. I'm Jerry Carino, and this is my 23rd year covering Jersey college basketball. My co-host, longtime colleague and friend Steve Edelson has retired. A huge loss for this show and for Jersey sports media. Steve was with the Asbury Park Press for 40 years. So hats off to him. We wish him well, and I hope to have him back as a guest here down the road because his level of institutional knowledge simply cannot be replaced. So it'll be me and a series of guests this season, and our season preview edition. Of course, the guest is a great one. This guy, who really needs no introduction, is on his way to becoming a new generation's voice of college basketball. He's an honorary New Jerseyan. I have bestowed that title on him, who broke into sports media as a student at Seton Hall, helped launch the Big East Digital Network, then went on to Fox Sports, where he made a national name for himself, and is now a play-by-play and studio broadcaster with NBC Sports. There is no better guy to tip things off than with John Fanta. John, welcome back to Jersey Jump Shot.
Jerry Carino, it is great to be back on Jersey Jump Shot, and it is an even greater honor to tip off the season. And this means that you will tip off your season, not with some scores table error, not with some clocking issue. You're playing. We're tipping off the game, and we're going. And I can only hope that every metropolitan area, I can't speak for the whole country, but every Jersey venue, every metropolitan area, knock on wood, not going to bet on it, but knock on wood, we'll have no issues at the monitors, at the scores table, back up because college basketball is back. First and foremost, Steve Edelson, you are a legend, and congratulations on an amazing career. Spent many a night with Steve across New Jersey, including at Monmouth. He covered some amazing moments there, and I did some CAA games, and it was always fun to see Steve's smiling face. But it is terrific to be with you. I'm pumped for the season, Jerry. All the off-season stuff. There's another word for it, but I'll call it stuff.
Yes.
In the rearview mirror, and we can play basketball. Let's go.
Oh, I feel the same way. I mean, you totally nailed it, John. The hat, the NBC Sports hat looks good on you. That's a peacock right there. I'm loving it. Let's talk about your new gig first, and then we'll get into Jersey college hoops. What's the biggest difference between covering college football, which now you're an essential part of their coverage on Saturdays, and covering college basketball?
Well, I think covering college football, you're really zoning in on a couple of big picture items, even though the playoff is expanded, and I don't think it should expand further. Like if they go to 16 max, I can't do beyond that. But with the 12-team playoff, now as the calendar flips to November, we're looking at a mix of, okay, who's going to get in? Like college basketball, but less teams, Jerry.
Right.
So as a result, let's be honest here, there's less meat on the bone in terms of the amount of games that matter. But the theater and the pageantry, I've seen it, throughout every Saturday. And college basketball is different because it's played multiple times a week.
Right.
But for these college football teams, like, okay, if Dan Hurley has a tough 2 or 3 years and then loses 3 games in a row, like he doesn't get fired.
Well, of course not.
Like James Franklin goes from playing in the game of the year in the sport against Oregon and the college football playoff semifinals. I know James Franklin is not necessarily a well-liked person in college football. He kind of had this villainous type quality to him. But like you don't lose your job. But the other thing is like there's well over $250 million in buyout money that's now been spread across these coaching firings. And amazing. I'm kind of beginning to look at it and say, who else is going to fire a coach? Because at this point, the carousel has so many horses on it. Like there's only going to be so many horses for the elite coaches to ride. So that's been interesting, just how much one afternoon or one night can change your season. I would say that's where I'm more college basketball, a lover there, because if you lose a game, it doesn't end everything.
Right. It's a bigger picture.
You can salvage your season. You can. Seton Hall 2 years ago had a rough non-conference and almost really should have gotten a spot in the tournament and then salvaged their season by winning the NIT.
Right.
So like there's more of an arc, and there's obviously more college basketball teams. The theater, the personality seems even more ratcheted up because of where football stands in our country and in our world. But I've had a lot of fun doing it. This Saturday, I'm the host for NBC in the studio for Rutgers and Illinois at noon. So we'll be on
There
it.
you go.
And then we have USC Nebraska Saturday night. So it's been fun to try something different. And Jerry, it's a huge reason why I've joined NBC, because I love my time at Fox and I'm forever grateful to Fox. I love being at a place where they say, hey, would you want to try this? Would you want to jump into this? And as you know, with me, because you've known me for a long time, I'll try just about anything, both at the dinner table and in the studio.
And speaking of the dinner table, Rutgers fans, you're lucky because you're going to have a guy on the game Saturday against Illinois who knows the difference between pork roll and Taylor ham. And so he went to college in Taylor ham country, but like when he goes to his summer home, his in-law summer home in Bradley Beach, he's on the sort of the borderline of pork roll country.
That's exactly right. I know both sides, and we can have a lot of there'll be some turnpike references.
Yes,
there'll be some store references. I mean, we can have a lot of fun with that. So I love Jersey. My wife and I call Denville, New Jersey, home now, home of establishments like the Pasta Shop and Hunan Taste, which is my favorite Chinese restaurant I've ever been to. We love Denville. We love Jersey.
Right. Morris County, Denville, shout out there. Okay, good. Let's a question that I think a lot of people were curious about, John, with you. What exactly is your role going to be for NBC for college basketball season in terms of the leagues you'll cover, how many games you're going to do? You'll have new analyst partners. How's it going to differ from Fox, and where are we going to be seeing you this winter?
So we have 200 plus games of inventory, and I think that a lot of people are maybe still trying to figure that out. But I would say that now at Peacock, with the NFL having a presence, the NBA having a presence, it's been reported about another major sport potentially coming into the mix. Folks can figure out what I'm referring to there. But in college football, we have games. And in college basketball now, we have destination games.
Right.
So I'll be doing still a lot of Big East basketball. We have 65 Big East games, and we have the first 5 games of the Big East tournament. I was part of that coverage last year. I'm excited to be part of that again this year. I'm pumped up to join in the Big 10 and Big 12 coverage. I'm really, because of how close Rutgers has been, and because of the East Coast Big 10 schools, getting down to Maryland and even getting over to Penn State. Jerry, I've tried to grow that national brand of covering the sport across the country. But the only way that you continue to grow it is if somebody opens a door for you. And I'm psyched up for Big Ten basketball. I've got some games already in December that'll be, I'll get to make my first trip to Mackey Arena. Which I'll get to just go to some of the spots in the league that I have not yet been to. Rutgers fans, you will get me at some point, I'm sure. Maybe a couple of times. Obviously, the proximity of my home is a good thing there. Seton Hall fans, I can report to you that a lot of your early non-conference games are on ESPN Plus due to the shakeup with the media partners. The first Seton Hall game I will call will be Kevin Willard's return to the Prudential Center, December 23rd. So a Festivus for the rest of us. There it is. I'll be in the building that night, and
how perfect that is.
Probably getting yelled at from both sides. So that
is awesome.
That'll be a lot of fun. And so I'll be calling games, Big East, Big 10. We do have some Big 12.
Right.
Moving a little bit more around the country. But make no mistake about it, in Jersey, you will still see me and whatnot, and I'll still be around.
Last thing on this, John, your schedule is going to be insane, especially in November when there's overlap. College football's peaks, regular season peaks in November. You're going to have college basketball tipping off. And then, of course, you're a new father. You have a 1-year-old, right? Or less than one. What is how?
A 5.5-month-old.
5.5-month-old. I mean, I've been there. That's a lot of work. What's going on? Like, how are you going to do all this? What's your schedule going to be like? I mean, you're going to be all over the place.
So I'm super excited to be taking on this opportunity. And we have, a variety of games that I'm looking forward to getting to. I would say, Jerry, that it's interesting because this might sound crazy, but during the week, I'm probably going to be doing a little bit less because I was writing quite a bit. at my prior stop, and I enjoyed writing, as you know. But as you know, and you do an unbelievable job of it, having to write 4, 5, 6 files a week, including a top 25, and call games. I'll be on. I tried to do my absolute best at both.
That's a lot.
I don't think I can stay on that level for both and be a dad and do this and do that. I never want to see a drop off in what I'm doing. And I respect writers and reporters and that side. I've lived it. Doesn't mean you still might not see me in that role during the NCAA tournament or during a time when I know for a fact I'm not calling games. I'm not afraid to put the different hat on. I've talked to your students for the classes you teach, and we talk about being versatile, make yourself valuable. But for me, this is much more of a calling games role, and I intend to deliver, just like with the Never Forget Tribute Classic last year between Princeton and Rutgers, or just like some of those great Seton Hall moments, or for the St. John's fans who listen to this, some of those moments throughout the year. So I'll have more free time at times during the week, which means I can come back on Jersey Jump Shot, but I'll do the diaper changing and all that during the week. And then, my weekends are packed. There's no question about it. There are some, you'll see this in a couple weeks. There's a Saturday in November where I will call a college basketball doubleheader and then migrate to the studio to do college football at night. So that will be a wild day and night, and I can't wait for it.
Well, there's no one better suited for this. And I say this as a workaholic, okay? There's no one who works harder in college sports and has more fun doing it than John Fanta. And it's very, very proud of you, John, and happy for you. And we're going to continue to love your coverage of this great sport, and both sports, college football and college basketball. All right, let's talk about the local Jersey college hoop scene, which you know as well as anybody. Seton Hall first. What are you expecting from the Pirates this year?
Well, what I'm expecting first and foremost is going to start with a story. And the story is, last week I emceed the Seton Hall tip-off beefsteak dinner. And the highlight of the night was a game of Pirate Feud. So they played Family Feud. They broke the two teams up. So it was Team Blue versus Team White, or in this case, Team Holloway versus Team Bozzella.
Okay.
It's safe to say they both got very competitive.
I bet.
And I think Coach Holloway appealed every single answer coming from the other team and asked me how the rules work, and then asked me, did I make the questions up? To which I said back to him, by the end of the game, I said, God almighty, to be an official, I am so glad I'm not one. That's how my night went. I thought I was going to get killed in the backstage of Walsh Gym because Team Bozzella won the game.
Oh, conspiracy theories abounding.
Abounding. Meanwhile, I found out his favorite show is Family Feud. He loves Steve Harvey. He loves the feud. So what do I think of this team? I will say, you and I have sat down with a lot of different players through the years. My first impression sitting down with Bud Clark last week was, I'm impressed. I'm impressed by his swagger. I'm impressed by his energy. I'm impressed by he's coming in here and he knows what the program went through last year. Like, that should not be lost. If you're a transfer and you just come in, you're like, well, I'm here for a year. I'm here for 2 years.
Right.
Clark kind of gives me a different vibe. He knows what the program is supposed to be. And he also knows that last year was embarrassing. And I think that he's taking a leadership role. Najai Hines, I had him all throughout Peach Jam. I love the player. I love that it would appear that he's gotten in shape, because the kid I saw 2 weeks ago versus the kid I saw in July is a different looking kid.
No doubt.
He's going to go through some growing pains. Guess what? He's a freshman, and that happens. But the nice thing for Hines is there's going to be a leash here. And I think if you're Seton Hall and you're this athletic department, which we all know has gone through some difficult times adjusting to the space, but I believe that they've got they have something figured out of a plan. They're not going through the next couple of years planless. There is something in place. You got to keep Clark and keep Hines, something we've talked about. The biggest question for this team is, can they shoot the basketball? Right. Are they going to be able to shoot the ball? Like, we say this, but it makes the world of a difference when someone can knock down 2 to 4 perimeter shots. It can open up other layers to an offense, i.e., David Tubeck in the Charleston Classic last year against VCU. He hit 3 threes in that game, and it changed the game.
Right.
A team that's only going to score 65 points, can they get 12 to 18 points from beyond the arc? That changes a game. They're going to need Elijah Fisher, who's got a lot of experience, TJ Simpkins, and I'm curious to see if AJ Staden-McCray can use his perimeter shot and come in and knock down some shots. Trey Parker's an X factor, obviously. Can they find a trio, Jerry, that they can rely on game to game and that can score enough for them? If they find that, Ariel Renee's another year older. Like, he got a lot of experience last year, and Hines is there. Stephon Payne looks solid.
There's some big guys.
They're better. They will be better. They will not have single-digit wins. We'll see how good they end up being, but I don't think they will finish last in the Big East. I will say that.
I agree. You know Shaheen Holloway as well as anybody. What do you think he learned from last year? He was deeply wounded by how last year went. Like, he took it extremely personally, as he does this whole assignment of coaching his alma mater.
It shook him to its core. He had a lot of problems with last year. And he also, Jerry, I think you would agree, there was never a moment last year in the middle of that where he did not take responsibility for this being his mess. You know, he has said, we screwed up. I screwed up. I own it. This cannot happen again. You know, there's a loaded situation here. Okay. They committed money to the practice facility. Right. And when they did that, NIL was just revving up. So they were behind the 8 ball in that. But I think, talking to the powers that be at the Hall last week, there is absolute reason to believe and reason to be optimistic about what the future holds and about what is possible. And also this, like, yes, last year was a disaster, but I also think that people's reaction to last year got compounded by how good the program had it.
Right.
So
10 straight years of 500 or better seasons in the Big East, an incredible streak. And obviously Kevin Willard has much to do with that. But Shaheen we'll get to him.
There's a great coach in there. There's a great coach in Shaheen Holloway. And he is going to show that, I think, as this year goes on. I think what I would say this year's goal is can you come out of this year saying there's some pieces here? They now possess the funding to keep said pieces. Go out and get 2 or 3 others that make a lot of sense for you, and then roll into 26, 27 and say, this is how we get to the postseason. This is how we make it happen. And by the way, postseason, you know, there's options there that they're not the NCAA tournament. I don't think that this is, you know, on paper an NCAA team.
Not this year.
And I agree, as you and I both know, though, you got to play the games.
Right.
And the journey of the marathon, there's a beauty in that. And let's see how they grow from day one to the final day. Because the worst thing about last year's team was they never grew. You and I love covering the grind of the sport because we see teams go through stuff and then grow from it. Right. Last year's team never punched back to adversity. I have a feeling Bud Clark and company will do that this year. And I think it is absolutely paramount that the Pirates start the year 5-0 and get better through those 5 games, to then show up to Maui with some intrigue. Because you show up to Maui, you put up one strong day against NC State, which Shaheen has circled that day on his calendar because it's against Will Wade, who he went up against for Najai Hines, and Will Wade wants to beat him, and Shaw wants to beat Will Wade. Right. That game will be interesting, that Monday of Feast Week.
All right, that's a good bit of context there. We'll keep an eye on that, John. Rutgers, you know well, you've covered Steve Peichel closely since he arrived in Piscataway. It was not Steve Peichel's type of team last year. What do you expect as he tries to get back to what he wants his identity to be? What do you expect from Rutgers this season?
I'm expecting Jamichael Davis and Dylan Grant to be leaders and to will this team to more of a Steve Peichel type of basketball team. A similar question: how do they score it efficiently? How do they score it effectively? Now, there are some sleeper candidates here. I've based on what I've been told and based on what I'm sure you've seen a little bit of it, they're bullish on Dennis Bottilau and his ability to shoot the basketball. Chris Newley is going to add a lot of energy for them, and I think his athleticism will be something to watch for this team. That's something that plays well inside Jersey Mike's arena. So that they seem to like him, and then they like Darren Buchanan's defense. And you and I both know what happens when Rutgers is getting stops and when they're
Right.
locked in on that end of the floor. Emmanuel Ogbole, another year older, they're going to play more like a Pikel team. They are not a tournament team on paper,
Right.
but he's a heck of a coach, and they have a true home court, and they're in a different spot than the Big East because they are in a league where if they find a niche, if they find an identity,
Right.
and they're able to score enough, you'd be surprised because as Kevin Willard brought up, in the Big Ten, you're playing 16, 18 quad one games by season's end.
Right.
That matters. That carries weight. So for
A lot of chances to rack up resume changing wins.
a lot more chances. But I think Davis and Grant are at the forefront. This will be more like Pikel. By the way, to the people who suggest like there's pressure on Pikel or any of this stuff, last year, yes, it did not go well. I struggle to believe that Rutgers can do much better as their head coach than Steve Pikel. They will be fine.
Yeah, and that's a good point, John. And my thinking is if they give Steve a GM who knows what he's doing, it can make a huge difference. So to give him that advantage and let's see what he can do with the GM. And I would expect Rutgers will do that, over the course of the next several months. Give him a chance to work with the GM. All right, moving on. One more team, because I know you followed Princeton closely. You've been on their campus. You've been in the eating clubs. My goodness, amazing how you immersed yourself in that program. John, an earthquake hit Princeton's culture this offseason. The free agency finally got to them. They were one of the last holdouts. They lost 2 difference-making players. They have a team with no seniors. How do you think Mitch Henderson and Princeton will react to, what has happened there over the last few months?
Yeah, obviously that shakes their program up quite a bit, but he is such a good coach. And one thing about Princeton is like they play such a clean style that it's hard to imagine them not in an Ivy League tournament situation.
Right.
Are they the best team in the league or the second best team in the league? I don't know about that.
Probably not.
But I think they're a top 4 team in the league. And I do think that as time goes on, we'll see that. Look, I love the kid, Dalen Davis. I think that he's a really terrific talent. And I think that Jack Stanton's a guy in their backcourt that should be able to help them. Not to mention Malik Abdullahi and his growth. Like to me, that's a kid that, for the Princeton fans, they saw it a little bit, but now as a sophomore, how did he go about the player development laboratory and the factory that is the Henderson factory? I mean, that's what he's been able to do. So I like enough of their pieces to say, maybe there's something there. I'm interested to see CJ Happy in the front court. I think that's a guy, when I look at their depth chart, that they expect to play a role. But they obviously have had some big losses. That's a part of the reality. But Jerry, if you have a guy who gets the place, gets the program, and they're young, but he does have some returning players who got good experience last year, and now we'll have more of an open door. Abdullahi, Davis, the 2 biggest names there.
Right.
There's a machine in the mid-major ranks, and one of its names is Princeton, and they're going to be okay. Yeah,
it's good analysis. That's a national star broadcaster going deep into Princeton's roster in basketball. John, I saved my favorite question for last. You and I sort of grew up on this job, in this beat with Kevin Willard when he was a first-year, high major head coach. You're there coming in as a freshman at Seton Hall. I'm there just sort of getting myself set in that beat. We all went through 12 years together. What do you think of Kevin on and off the court at Villanova this season? And I say off the court because we know he can coach, but he's going to have obviously a new sort of firepower behind him with Villanova athletics, but also off the court because he's so different than Jay Wright. What do you make of Kevin in his new, very high-profile spot?
Yeah, I think he's definitely, compared to the Villanova etiquette and fancy napkins and silverware and nice looking wine glasses. Kevin likes the wine, but he doesn't need a fancy glass to drink it in.
That's right.
There's a little bit of a renegade there, but in a good way. I think Villanova almost needed it because in this new day and age, like they've possessed the assets and the money, but they just needed a different kind of energy. And, to me, Jay Wright, he built a monster. But when the owner of a great restaurant leaves, I mean, I'll give you like Morris County, nothing gets by the people around New Jersey. I found out from like 3 people in the last 48 hours. Yeah, that place down the street, their ownership changed hands. I'm like, how am I finding this out right now? Like, it happened last week. People are locked in. They're like, the ownership changed hands. Be aware when you order that Reuben, the ownership changed hands. Why? It's the same corned beef. It probably tastes. Nope, it won't, because the ownership changed hands.
All right.
My point is, Jay leaves. You try to create the same dishes with a different chef. It just doesn't work.
Right.
And it's almost like they need a little bit of nachos and a different menu item to say, this is fresh, this has some flair. And Kevin's shown, like, he takes over a Maryland program that frankly is coming off of a really rough time with Mark Turgeon, and there's no energy. And he got that place re-energized quickly. Like, Maryland fans can hate him all they want. He still got you to your first Sweet 16 in close to a decade. Well, you want to, I go off results. That guy's been to 8 in the last 10 tournaments. He is a winning coach. He is a rambunctious character. He's great for the Big East. He's different. He can be sharp, but I think it fits. I think it plays. And, I think at Villanova, you can be however you want to be. If you're winning, there's a little bit more of a harshness in the Philadelphia area. But I think Kevin knows there's expectations, and I think he's built for it now, as opposed to when he first took over at Seton Hall. I think he's learned over time. Sometimes it's maybe backfire, but I like it because it's refreshing. I think he's learned over time that you can't give a damn what people think of you or what people say about you. That's going to work well at Villanova. He's going to coach his team, and he's going to have the resources to do it. Villanova has an unlimited bankroll. I mean, the amount of golf club memberships that are sitting in Finneran Pavilion for each game is geez, oh man, more burgers than I've had in my life. So it's a big bankroll, and it's a setup that I think will be refreshing for all of us.
I wonder how long till Kevin gets membership at Lower Merion. I know he had just gotten into Baltusrol when he changed jobs and moved to Maryland. So now I think Lower Merion is like one of the big clubs there that the U.S. Open comes to. All right.
I said to Kevin, I was doing a Villanova fundraiser, and one of the players said, yeah, coach is in his suit again. I said, if you could pick a wardrobe, Jay Wright or Kevin Willard, who would you pick? And they said, Jay Wright, because coach told us that he's tight with his closet, like he's tight with his wardrobe. I looked at the player. I go, tight with his wardrobe. I looked at Father Peter, the president of Villanova. I go, see, Father Peter, he's already trying to renegotiate.
Oh my goodness!
The guy hasn't coached a game yet.
I know. Come on, Kevin. Put up a couple W's first. All right. So listen, a lot of Taylor ham, pork roll, Reuben. We got a Reuben in there. What's on the menu this winter is college basketball, and John Fanta will be at the forefront. John, we're going to watch that Rutgers-Illinois football game Saturday. We're going to watch you all winter long, and I can always can't thank you enough for remembering your roots and coming on with me at Jersey Jump Shot. You're the best, brother.
Anytime, Jerry. Here's to a fantastic season. And to all you New Jersey Hoops faithful, you're 0-0 right now. Hope springs eternal.
All right. I love it. I'm pumped after that. Got a little more to talk about. Thank you very much, sir. John Fanta is the best. Honorary New Jerseyan. I don't distribute that title lightly. Thank you to John for coming on and getting us started in the Jersey Jump Shot Season 7. All right. Few things, menu items I want to touch on. I do want to go down the list here. I did get to see Seton Hall practice this year, so I know I've complained about that on the podcast a couple times last year. I'm happy to say access has been pretty good this fall. Did get in to see a full practice. Went up there 2 times, and I really do. I don't want to reiterate everything John said, but I really do like the inside-outside combo of Bud Clark and Najai Hines. There's just a lot of potential there. And Hines, I think, could be great. I don't know about this year. What freshman big is going to be great? There's not many. There's a learning curve going on with that. But I think he has the potential to be great, not good, great as a college player. Will that happen at Seton Hall? It remains to be seen. But there is something special there. And I will put my name next to that right now. Bud Clark is a competent, solid Big East point guard, which is much better than Seton Hall had last year. And as Hall fans know, that's always been part of the Pirates' success, that solid point guard play, that gritty, tough leader, run through a brick wall point guard, make others better. I do believe Bud Clark has that in him. He doesn't have to be an all Big East player. He just has to be solid for Seton Hall to elevate themselves into a contending, middle-of-the-pack, competitive, solid squad. And I think he's capable of doing that. I am a little concerned that the Hall has no power forward. They have these three bigs that John and I discussed. God's will from last year. They bring in Stephon Payne, an experienced player from Jacksonville and a very good athlete, and Hines, the fab freshman from Plainfield out of the Queen City. Great basketball city, by the way, a tremendous heritage on the hardwood, but they're all really centers. So there is no power forward. Now, Seton Hall's played without a power forward before under Holloway. Dre Davis was really he's like a big guard wing who sort of just filled in a power forward out of necessity with the Pirates on their NIT championship squad, and he did well. Dre Davis was a special kind of player. Super versatile, tough, do anything you ask. We'll see if someone can fill that role this year. Is it Elijah Fisher, who does have Big East experience from DePaul? He might be the guy who's asked to be that kind of player. And so you do wonder, how high can you rise in the Big East without a power forward? So we'll be watching Elijah Fisher to see what he can contribute. I see AJ Stat McRae as an X factor. John mentioned him as a potential shooter. Guy's played a lot of college basketball. He was very good at Samford. And before you laugh and say, well, who the heck is Samford? That program was good when he was there. And they were in the NCAA tournament, and they took Kansas to the wire in the big dance. And so there's a guy who shot 41% his final year at Samford from three-point range, which I know it's harder to do that in the Big East. However, if you can shoot, if shooters shoot. And if you can't shoot at that level, you're not going to shoot at this level. So I do believe he has a chance to be a shooter for them, Stat McRae, and a guy who could be an X factor. They're going to need him to stretch defenses by shooting the ball and making the right play in the perimeter. He does seem on paper to be a pretty good complement to Bud Clark. We'll have to see how it plays out. He did not have a good year at Miami last year. However, no one had a good year. It was sort of an implosion type year at Miami. I don't know if that reflects more on the program than any individual player, probably. So we'll see. Does the vibe you're getting out of Seton Hall is he does seem to be slotted for big minutes in a big role. I see him as an X factor. And a sleeper guy with the Hall is Jacob Dar. I wouldn't not know much about Jacob Dar. He's only played one season of Division I basketball at Rice after coming up from a lower level. He did finish really strong for Rice last year. When I saw him, I was super impressed. The guy was just draining three-pointers in the 5-on-5 from all over the court, and he's a really good athlete, blocking shots, blocking bigger guys. Defensively, there's something to work with there. So I feel like this is a guy who, although probably far from a finished product, given he hasn't played really any high major basketball in only 1 year of D1 basketball, this is someone whose potential struck me as could be helpful to Seton Hall this season. So I see Jacob Dar as a sleeper type player. I tend to agree with John. This will not be a last place team. The Pirates will be better. I could see them finishing as high as 8th out of 11. There is some wiggle room in the bottom quarter of the league for them to move up. And then we'll see. But from an individual standpoint, there's a couple of promising guys who are underclassmen in this program, and watching them develop. And then, of course, the big question will come to next spring. Can they keep these guys? But watching them develop will be a big part of the journey this year. And by that, I mean Ajay Hines and Bud Clark, who is a junior. So there are some intriguing parts to the Seton Hall team. We'll have to see how it plays out. Can they take care of business at a conference early on, which they haven't really done well over the last few years? That will be something to watch as well. It could give us an early clue as to where this team is headed. I am intrigued by some of the pieces here. Rutgers, I've seen them practice 3 times. One thing I can tell you for sure is that they have an identity. Their identity is back to what it was. It's a grind it out, hit you with sharp elbows, rebound, play team defense. That identity is back. How successful will it be? Will it resemble more closely Pikel's earliest years on the Banks, where Rutgers fought hard but lost a lot of games just for lack of firepower and talent? Or will it come somewhat closer to resembling his mid-stage, later stage teams where they had all that and they put opponents in the dentist chair, but they also could hit some big shots in crunch time. They had some guys who could make plays, and therefore, they were an NCAA tournament caliber team. Maybe somewhere in the middle, we'll have to see. But they do have an identity, and I do feel like Steve Pikel and his staff will be much more comfortable coaching this type of team than they were last year. It just wasn't as good identity fit last year. Of course, you're concerned about the shooting with Rutgers. They're going to play tough. You feel like they're going to defend and rebound and be a pain in the neck for opponents, especially in the rack and Piscataway. Can they shoot the ball? Don't know, because I'm just not going to fall into the same trap I've fallen into in years past. We saw Issa Cham make 15 straight threes and in a practice, and it was like, this is the guy, and he wasn't the guy. I saw Antonio Chol, have a practice where he looked like Michael Jordan, and that he wasn't the guy. So I'm not going to just jump to a conclusion from any, and even seeing 3 or 4 practices. Do they have guys who can shoot? I've seen some guys put the ball in the basket in their practices. Got to see them do it when the lights are on. They have nobody who's really proven to do that when the lights are on at Division I, especially the high major level. And so that's going to be a concern. I do really like Chris Newley, the freshman forward, great athlete, tough as nails, super attitude, can be that, punch in the throat type of guy as a freshman. I expect to see him get major minutes and be a major part of this program. I saw some things from him that indicate there's a potential star, at the very least, like an anchor of a program in the coming years. Again, if you can keep a guy like that on board, but I do think he'll have an impact this year. He's definitely a freshman to watch. Forward, Chris Newley, and then sleeper. Look, the Euro guys are going to be important. They're going to have to make shots for Rutgers. They're potential shot makers. That's why they're here. I do think this is a pipeline that could benefit Rutgers now and in the years to come. So Haroon Zerno was pretty well recruited by high majors. Indiana, he was originally committed there. He winds up at Rutgers. He does kind of look the part as a major contributor this season. But I want to talk about a sleeper, this guy, Dennis Badalou, who the 3 times I've seen Rutgers, he's played well. He shot the ball well. How will he hold up defensively? Will the athleticism of the high major Big Ten level be a shock to his system? It's possible. But there's a guy who knows how to put the ball in the basket, who has a good feel for the offensive end of basketball, who no one really knows much about. And so I think Dennis Badalou will be someone to keep an eye on as a potential sleeper guy at Rutgers. I want to run down the mid-majors real quick. Princeton, John mentioned Malik Abdullahi. I am super high on this guy. He's a 6'7" sophomore. He got some time in the post at a necessity as a freshman last year. He had to play the post. They didn't really have anybody there. He's not really a center. He's more of a point forward. And you're going to see him in that role this year. No one really deserves to be compared to Tosan, right? Tosan Woma, who was the point forward extraordinaire on Princeton's Sweet 16 team, has been in the NBA the last couple of years. But I see a little bit of Tosan and Malik, and I think that's how they're going to try to use him this year. So there's a guy to watch with a lot of upside. Dalen Davis has played quite a bit for Princeton, and he'll be a factor too. I do think Princeton will be a top 4 team. It's going to take a while to come into form after what they lost. Can they get in the Ivy League tourney and grow up late? We'll have to see. Yale obviously deserves to be the huge favorite in that league. Monmouth brings some players back, notably Jack Collins, a 4-year senior guard from Manasquan, and just a guy who's a super all-around player. First team, or he's an all CAA preseason choice. Really see him, being a go-to guy, and that's what you need. You need a go-to guy with the shot clock winding down. I see Jack in that role. It's an added bonus that he's from the Jersey Shore. He knows what the expectations are in King Rice's program. I see Monmouth as an upper quarter team in the CAA, and they do return a fair amount. They weren't totally wiped out. They did lose, obviously, some very good players. Abdi Bashir winds up at Kansas State, just after tearing everybody up last year. But keep an eye on that. For the Hawks, I think they'll be competitive and solid in the CAA. FDU has 12 new players. Joey Niesman, a point guard, up from the Division II ranks, a post grad who the coaching staff really likes. And if you have a point guard, you got a chance. What FDU has going for it is that the Northeast Conference is just so wide open. There is some talent there. There is size. They got a big team. I'm sure the biggest team in that league. They have a 7-footer from Eastern Europe and a couple other players from overseas. So we'll see how it all fits together, but FDU does have a point guard they like. NJIT, I saw them practice. Ari Fulton, remember the name, 6'7" sophomore wing, had some injuries and some stops and starts as a freshman, but as he got it together at the end of the season, showed the signs of being a real impact player, super versatile. Ari Fulton is a guy who could be an all-league player in America East. NJIT is going to move up in that league. There's no doubt in my mind this is not a team that's going to finish in the bottom of the league. Those days are over. They have some key players back. They have some toughness. Graham Billmeyer does not sugarcoat. And for Graham, especially in the toughness department, and for Graham Billmeyer to tell me that this team's grit reminds him of some of the toughness of some of those better Seton Hall teams that he coached, in the Delgado era, that's a high compliment. And so NJIT is going to be better, and they'll be a team to watch in the America East. St. Peter's brings back Bryce Eaton, a sophomore point guard who was very good last year as a freshman, got a lot of valuable experience. They do bring a couple players back, so I think they'll be in the mix in the MAC. No one's predicting them to win the league, but middle of the pack type of team. They will be playing NJIT and FDU early, a nice little round robin that those North Jersey mid-majors have going. I'm going to try to get to one of those games for sure. Ryder looks to be a down year for Ryder on paper, but Zion Cruz is a Trenton guy, a guard, a senior wing who averaged double figures last year for them. And so, there are players, impact players on each of these Jersey squads. On paper, no NCAA tournament team. It's October. That could change, and we will be watching. Listen, John got me fired up for the season. It's a long off season. It's a grind covering free agency. There's a lot of other things going on surrounding the sport. The specter of private equity, a gambling scandal in the NBA, and gambling investigations in college athletics with these prop bets. The eligibility piece of college sports, which is seems to be hanging on by a thread, with G League and Euro pros coming in. There's a lot of moving parts. The 4-year thing, thank God that's still in place, that you get 4 years of eligibility. Otherwise, you don't have college sports. So there's a lot of things on the periphery that have shaken up the sport. Potential NCAA tournament expansion as well. But when the games start, there is not a whole lot that's better than college basketball. The unpredictability of it, the egalitarianism of it, that anybody could beat anybody. Can an FDU still beat a Purdue? Yes, that can still happen. There's only 5 guys on a side, and that means anything can happen in this sport. And that's what makes it fun. So we're trying to make projections in October. It's impossible. It's always been throwing darts at a dartboard. Now it's like throwing darts at a dartboard blindfolded. So we'll probably look back in the spring, and I'll have missed on all these. So will everybody else. But that's why they play the games. And I know you'll be with us for another season of Jersey Jump Shot. Season 7, we'll have a lot of guests, we'll have a lot of fun, and hopefully we'll have a lot of you following along. Thanks to John Fanta for tipping it off right, and we will see you on the hardwood soon for Jersey Jump Shot. Signing off, episode 1, basketball lies ahead.